Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson, and we're going to read this week's Torah with Torah Life Ministries. And this week we're reading Torah portion number 47. And we're going to go through this week here, and we're going to see, and we're getting towards the end of the Torah cycle, and then we're going to start all over again after the Feast of Tabernacles. And each year we do this over and over again. We start right after Tabernacles with the beginning of the Torah, and we go all the way through. So we have a couple more weeks left, and then we'll be done. And right now we're in the Torah where Moses is recapping all the things that have happened and reiterating and telling the people again what they need to do, because it's so important. And the people weren't remembering, they were rejecting, they were forgetting, they were doing all these things that were going to keep them out of the promised land. And it did. It kept the whole generation out of the promised land. And Moses was warning the people, look, I'm going to tell you again and again, because you have to get it right. No is not acceptable. You have to get this right. So we'll look at what he says here this week. Deuteronomy 11:26. And Deuteronomy 11:26, he talks about setting before the people a blessing and a curse. It says right here, see, I am setting before you a blessing and a curse. And that's what Yahweh does, and that's what the scriptures are all about. The scriptures are a book of opposites. You have life versus death, good versus evil, and blessing versus curses. And that's what it is. That's what it's about. And that just shows you right here this week that Moses says this. And he talks this week about how to get those blessings or how those curses will come upon people. And so that this week's Torah is all about that. And one of the points Moses makes clear is, we see it in Deuteronomy 12:2. He said, when you go across the Jordan and you go to take that land, you need to destroy all. Don't take any plunder. Don't take anything. Destroy all of the things that those people were using, those pagan things. Yahweh will provide what you need. You don't have to take those things, because curses are attached to the possessions of those people that were disobedient to Yahweh. And today it's the same thing, I believe, that we should not be buying from people or businesses or supporting places that are not following Yahweh, that are not receiving his blessings. We should do our best to get the things we need and help the fellow brother in the meantime by buying things from people that are already blessed by Yahweh, so we can get those blessings as well. Because when we buy things from people or support people that are not believers, when we support people that are doing things that Yahweh says we shouldn't be doing, you know, those possessions have a curse attached to them, as we see here in this week's Torah. So we have to either destroy, just like they were told, destroy all those things, or at least don't bring them into our houses. Don't buy them, and don't support people that are making those things and selling those things. So that's a very important lesson that we have to get. And then it says in Deuteronomy 13 this week, in 13:1, everything I'm commanding you to do, you are to take care to do. Do not add or subtract from it. And there's a big problem we have today, because people like to add or subtract to Yahweh's guidelines and instructions. And he tells us clearly, do not add or subtract from it. And you know, everybody, when I became a believer, I didn't know anything about the Bible. I just read the Gospel of John, and I saw what Yeshua did. And I said, I want to be like that guy. I believe he had the right way, and I believe he is the Messiah. I accept him as my Messiah, and I wanted to live the life he told us to live. And as I started doing that, I started to open up and go to churches and meet people that said they were believers and so on. And I began to be very confused, because they weren't doing the things that he told us to do. So then I would read there to make sure I got it right, and I said, no, he said do that, and these people are doing that. So something was wrong. People are adding and subtracting from what he told us to do. And this is what curses are attached to, because it says right here, see that you do all I tell you to do, and you do not do what I tell you not to do. And people are doing it backwards today. And the curses are becoming upon them. Now one of the main things it tells us not to do, and that he says make sure you don't do this, is following other gods. Making a god out of other things, making people more important than Yahweh, making things more important than Yahweh. You know, man today, and even the church today, and if you're a Christian today, you'll agree to this, you know, when you look at the Ten Commandments, you'll be okay to follow the last 6 commandments. But what about the first 4? Are you following those? And that's what people aren't doing. And it's running into a big problem. This curse has come upon by not doing all he told us to do, by adding or subtracting what he told us to do. So you need to relook at those commandments, and you need to get right with Yahweh, because no matter how far you've drifted, if you come back, he will restore your blessings, as it says in the scriptures. So we look at also in the scriptures this week, we see him telling us to kill. When he looks at destroy, he says to kill anyone who tries to teach you different or take you away from Yahweh's word. Whether it's a leader, your friends, or anyone, he says to kill them. Now, a lot of people look at what the Muslims are doing and everything else and saying, well, that's wrong. And a lot of people will say, well, how would Yahweh kill people that aren't following his word and all this other stuff? We have to understand the essence and the understanding of Scripture. He doesn't mean to go out there and physically kill them. You know, that's for him to decide. That's for him and his judgment on those people. But what he wants us to really kill is the root. Because if the root is not pure, what comes from it is not pure. He wants us to destroy the root of evil, the root of disobedience. And when he says to kill those people teaching the people that, or to kill your friends and your family and all these other people that are teaching people different than what Yahweh taught, or if they're not even supporting what Yahweh taught, to kill them means to kill the root, to destroy that root. So you have to say to those people, look, either you follow this, or I don't want to have nothing to do with you. And you take yourself away from those people. You follow what he said, or I don't want to have nothing to do with you. Now, if it's some leader or somewhere else and try to tell you different, you don't have to have nothing to do with those people. But what about your friends and family? You don't just want to leave your friend and family. We want to love them, or we want to be an example. But we don't spend all our time around them because they say if you spend the people you spend the most of your time with, you either learn their ways or they learn your ways. And if it's a tremendous amount of people, you know, eventually you're going to learn their ways. So we have to understand and find the right balance where, you know, if it's people that, you know, we don't need to be around them, but if it's our family and friends and we still want to be around them, how do we destroy that root then? Well, we got to learn to separate ourselves from the conversations. We got to learn to separate ourselves from the situations where we need Yahweh and Yahweh should be, and only associate with those people on a particular level. So we have to understand that. We cannot throw out and destroy the love of Yeshua with this. You know, a lot of people today in the Messianic movement and in the Torah movement, they love Torah and they want to follow Yahweh's guidelines, but do not forget Yeshua and do not forget the love that he taught. But also remember, without love, you know, we can't have love without having hate. So we're to love the things Yahweh told us to love and hate the things he told us not to, and destroy those things or get rid of them or avoid them the majority of the time. So that's what he's talking about here when he says to kill these things. And for a long time, people have been missing this, and they don't even know it says this in the scriptures, but it does. You know, so we need the love of Yeshua, but we also have to destroy the disobedient idols, the disobedient worship, the disobedient actions, and so on. And this week, on another level, on a completely different topic, it also gets in, you know, when I teach about the animals, it teaches us in Deuteronomy 14, the animals that are clean to eat and the animals that are not clean to eat. I tell people all the time when it comes to diet, there couldn't be any topic more simple other than Yeshua is who he says he is, the Messiah, the doorway to heaven, the only way to be saved. Besides that topic, the only subject that is more simple and straightforward is what we should be eating or not be eating in Scripture. And it clearly tells us here, when it comes to certain animal foods and meats, what foods are clean to eat and what foods are not clean, or what foods are allowed and what foods are not allowed. So we have to consume the foods that Yahweh told us to consume or are okay to consume, but destroy, remember, eliminate, destroy, get rid of, avoid the foods he told us not to eat. And that list is found in Deuteronomy 14, and it's very straightforward. So it says here, we started off with blessings and curses, and it goes on to say in Deuteronomy 15:10, Yahweh will bless you in all your work if you do what he told you to do. He will bless you in all your work if you do what he told you to do. But, you know, it goes beyond just what we're doing for ourselves. It goes beyond just our own personal salvation and our own personal what we want to get and the blessings we get. But he tells us to help bless others. He tells us to help the needy, to help the poor. And he tells us to help the homeless. He shows us that right here in the scriptures. You must open your hand to the poor and needy. You must give to them. You must pray for them. You must be with them. We're all invited to his feast. We're all invited to follow his commands and his guidelines and instructions. But Yahweh will say, if you don't want to follow them, there are certainly out there that people that will, and they will get those blessings that I originally had for you. So there's enough blessings to go around, but to receive those blessings, we have to be obedient to Yahweh's word. And then finally, this week's Torah Parashah ends with showing the obedience and the days that we're to keep. He talks about the Passover, and he talks about eating the matzah for 7 days. All these different things, and keeping the feast, and what's to come, and so on. That's this week's Torah Parashah. This is Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries saying, spread this Torah Parashah out, send it to your friends, and we'll be back next week.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways.